From the campus of the University of Kentucky, you're listening to Behind the Blue. I'm Cody Kaiser with UK Strategic Communications. Today's episode is another part of The Business of UK, a recurring series within Behind the Blue designed to take a closer look at the systems, strategies, and partnerships that keep a modern university and academic medical center moving forward. The Business of UK is a chance to pull back the curtain on how major decisions are made, why certain partnerships take place, and how the work behind the scenes supports our mission to serve the Commonwealth. Each installment will take one topic and unpack how it works, why it matters, and what it means for the people we serve across Kentucky. If you'd like to know more about the Business of UK, email your questions or topic suggestions to businessofuk@uky.edu. With that, I'll turn it over to our Executive Vice President for Finance and Administration and Co-EVP for Health Affairs, Dr. Eric Monday.
This is Eric Monday again. I serve as the Executive Vice President for Finance Administration and the Co-Executive Vice President for Health Affairs at the University of Kentucky. If you've listened to previous podcasts, we try to dig a little deeper into the business issues of UK. And today we're going to discuss BBNIL and our name, image, and likeness strategy for UK athletics and the role JMI Sports is playing in achieving our goals and objectives for our student athletes and our athletics department. We've had Paul Archey with us before, and we welcome him back. Today we're also joined by our athletics director, Mitch Barnhart. Thanks, Mitch, for being here. And as we welcome Mitch, Mitch has been the athletics director of the University of Kentucky since 2002. You've seen a lot of changes and transition in that time, maybe not as much in the last 5 to 10 years, Mitch. If you can kind of just share some thoughts about what you've seen and what we've experienced here at UK over your time as the athletics director.
Well, I think and thanks again for having me. I appreciate it. It's for 20 plus years from the chair in Lexington, Kentucky, in the Southeastern Conference. It's been a very unique set of circumstances. We've been a place of stability for a long time. We're a charter member of the Southeastern Conference, which I think is super important. I've been here 23 years and only had two presidents. I've only worked for two presidents. One was Dr. Lee Todd, and upon his retirement, Dr. Eli Capilouto. And so I think stability has been something that's really been important for the University of Kentucky. We've been steady through that, being able to serve our student athletes and the university community really, really well. Having said all that, college athletics over the last decade and a half has seen some incredible change. Part of that began when we were allowed to do cost of attendance, and that was something that was new, as things that were in addition to the normal tuition, room and books, food, those kind of things, room and board. So there were additional costs of traveling to and from to campus, and so we were able to give that. That came in probably 2013, 14, 15, in that range. Then the Alston Academic Awards, those changed the way we looked at things, and that came about in the mid-2015, 16, somewhere in that range. Then we ran into COVID, and COVID changed the way we did our work. It had a lot to do with how we did our medical work. It had a lot to do with how we cared for our student athletes. Not that we ever didn't care for them well. I just felt like it ramped up the efforts to make sure that mental wellness, physical wellness, athletic wellness, all those things were at a higher level than I think probably ever before, and there was more resources put into those than ever before. Then you got into the post-COVID experience of name, image, and likeness, and that was separate from this nuance called the House settlement. So the name, image, likeness was something that 50 different states had 50 different laws about the way that should be approached in terms of a student athlete accessing his name, his image, his likeness for their benefit. A normal student on campus could do that. A normal student on campus could do whatever they wanted to in the world of endorsement. A student athlete could not. That changed. And then it changed by state laws. Each state would take on a different look, and that became a little problematic, to be real honest with you. Then, with having all that created competitive inequity, created issues within the NCAA structure, and it created issues within conferences. So there was trying to become a little more uniform in all of that. But in the midst of all that came the House settlement, which allowed us, as institutions, through litigation, a class action lawsuit, to bring $20.5 million of each program to give to student athletes and sharing of revenue through multimedia, television contracts, revenues produced through the program. That is an effort to recognize the contributions that student athletes are bringing to a department and giving them an opportunity to participate in that process. So those are two distinct things. Name, image, likeness was different than revenue sharing. Revenue sharing is something internal created from the athletic department through our revenues. The name, image, likeness is on top of that, and that is something that the individual student athlete then accesses through their skills and the things that they bring to the table. No different than a professional athlete is endorsing a product. Very similar to that, a college student athlete would have an opportunity to access sponsors that they've never had access before, or people in the community, or things that are of interest to them as influencers or things like that social media has created. So way different opportunities and exciting times for them, and things that we think are very important for young people to begin to figure out how they do that themselves. How do they create their own businesses and their own pathway forward?
And so I know the revenue share is up to 20.5 for this year, and universities can participate. We've taken full advantage of that, right, Mitch? That we maximize that revenue share as we go through that period. And then separate from that, in addition to, we have this opportunity to work with our student athletes to assist on NIL. Is that your strategy and philosophy of trying to maximize as much revenue as students can earn?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two pieces to this. You're absolutely correct. The one is the revenue share piece, which we have control of that $20.5 million pool of money. And there is an offset in there for new scholarships created for our department. So it's really $18 million this first year until we begin to move forward in this space. Those are used as our department wants to put those in different places, realizing that there may be additional scholarships we give to certain programs. There may be revenue share we give to certain programs. And then on top of that, there may be NIL opportunities for specific programs. And those are all opportunities that are very unique to each institution. You keep hearing things in the marketplace that this program or this school is going to have a $30 million roster or something like that, $30 million NIL roster. That can't happen. And really, in the landscape that we're in, it's going to be a combination of those things. It's a little bit of a misspeak, if you will. So really important to get our words right and make sure we define it right. For us, it will be a really, and it's no different than anyone else, it will be a combination of rev share, name, image, likeness, and new scholarship dollars. And so we're really strategically putting that together with our administrative staff, with our coaches, and with the representatives and families of our student athletes to make sure that we maximize that. So we're creating really good rosters. We're giving our young people the best opportunity to monetize and make money for them and save them money for not having to go to college and spend money on scholarships and be in student loan debt, all those kind of pieces. And the third piece for us is absolutely having a competitive environment where we can compete in the most difficult conference in America and nationally. And we think we've got a good strategy, and we've got really good partners in helping us do that.
That's great, Mitch. Thank you. And let's talk with our partner and Paul in this case. So how is JMI Sports positioned to assist the athletics department when we think about NIL? And can you talk about what you and Mitch and the teams, and I think I want to kind of come back to one thing Mitch said, and when he talked about all these different groups, he used that term team. And I think that's really important of how we're team focused on when we think about all these things. But Paul, can you talk a little bit about BBNIL and the thoughts behind it, what you and Mitch and the team came up with?
Sure. So that BBNIL has been a term used out there, and kind of like Mitch said, maybe sometimes not appropriately used. But that's BBNIL is a collaboration between us as their multimedia rights partner and the university athletic department to create this structure in which we can provide opportunities, revenue and marketing opportunities for student athletes, from both with our current partners, outside of our current partners, but not just revenue and marketing, but other services, to assist them in the NIL Go portal, to get that right, to create content, build their brand. So it's not just about how much revenue, it's about the other services that we can combine. We talked, Mitch just mentioned partnerships, and we talked about this earlier when the last time I was with you, about the strength of partnerships here at the University of Kentucky. We have, I can point to two, Kentucky Farm Bureau and Palmetto Ford, who were here in 1974 and 75. That continuous running. We have deep partnerships. Central Bank, we're sitting in the Central Bank Center, and we've been extremely lucky, but also successful in being able to go to those partners as part of the BBNIL solution and generate new NIL dollars and opportunities for these athletes. So, the approach is holistic. It's a combined, like I said, a collaboration. It's collective. It's about driving revenue, marketing opportunities, and then other services for the student athletes.
Now, the point of this podcast also is to dig a little deeper into these conversations, these topics. We hear from our fans. We hear from, various members of the community asking us questions. I think one of the questions we hear are other universities or other athletics departments working with their media rights partner on these NIL services. So maybe I'll start with Paul and then come to Mitch as well.
Well, and again, we talked previously about other properties in the portfolio, so I have a good sense of what others are doing as well.
We may have some first-time listeners, Paul. Talk a little bit about JMI Sports and just some of the other properties y'all are engaged in.
Sure. University of Kentucky was our first and longest partner we brought on 10 years ago. It's proud to say it's also our most successful in driving revenue. It is a top multimedia rights property in the country. It's a top 5 by any measure in what we do here. But we do have other strong partners from other conferences. The other Power 4 conferences. We've got Notre Dame, University of Georgia, UCLA, Northwestern, University of Utah, University of Pittsburgh. So I think around the country, different size. Every school is unique. They always tell you that, and it's true. Every school is unique in how they approach things. But we also have conferences as a whole, and smaller schools such as Harvard or Penn that play in the Ivy League. But to your question about our other schools, we are doing it a little bit uniquely here, which I think is to the benefit of the University of Kentucky. One of the reasons that they 10 years ago selected JMI Sports is so we could be customized, so we could build programs that were for the University of Kentucky, not for 50 schools to do together. Having said that, the approach is also very similar by those schools in how they're trying to drive NIL, because the rules have changed. You have to contracts have to be approved by NIL Go, and that has to be a valid business purpose and meet a range of compensation. We work very closely with the University of Kentucky Athletics and Mitch's team and coaches and everybody in that whole process. But this is, to be clear, BBNIL is additive services that we collaborated on for the benefit of the student athletes.
So, Mitch, you one of the longest-serving ADs in the country, longest-serving in the SEC. You talk to your fellow athletic directors regularly. Are Learfield and Playfly and some of the others doing similar things with their revenue partner, their media rights holder?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it varies from place to place, exactly how the nuances of each of those contracts and their and their relationships are. But there's almost without exception, other athletic directors and other athletic departments are having the same questions and the same work-throughs as whether it's as in relationship to the partners that they have. Our first responsibility through JMI Sports is to our partners, and that is really, really important to understand. We've got to make sure that they have an opportunity. They've never had in their history an opportunity to work with student athletes before, ever. So all of a sudden, for the first time in its history, we say, hey, here's this unique opportunity, and if we don't go to them first, that would seem disingenuous to me. So I think that's our first start. And if that doesn't work and that relationship doesn't work, it doesn't say that student athlete can't go and create their own relationship somewhere else and do something else. We've shown that time and again that they've had an opportunity to do that. They've been able to go and create their own relationships. Now, they can't use our institutional property remarks, and that's okay. That's okay. They understand that. That is no different than you see many professional athletes that are representing in the NFL. They will go and they'll do an ad for a very national company, and they'll walk out there and they'll be in the colors, but with no marks on their name, but they're representing a national firm. That's okay. If a young person chooses to do that, they can do that. So they have multiple options. They can come with us where we can really think we can drive partnerships for them and give them opportunity. If that doesn't work for them, they can go drive their own and find their own way. They can't use our marks at that point in time, and that's okay too. They should be able to do that. There's obviously many examples that work successfully well. And the third piece is there's many times here early on, we have found young people bringing their deals already well in hand to our institution saying, hey, I've already got this. Are we good? Yes, we'll work through that, and we have worked through that. So really important, 3 different avenues, different way to work. And sometimes, truth be told, it's a combination of all 3. And that's okay too. We're glad to help them in this space, glad that they maybe have something else that they can work on. And the third thing, they may have something well in hand. Okay. That's all fine. This notion that is restrictive and we're saying it's one of 3 pathways, choose, that's not true.
That's helpful, Mitch. And Paul, coming back to you for a second, to build on what Mitch just shared, sometimes this term restrictions, I've read stories about, there's certain categories and, that may hinder or limit our ability to be successful. At the end of the day, to Mitch's point, let's not lose sight of what this is all about. This is about our student athletes. It's about this fabric of connection to Kentucky. And so, Paul, can you talk a little bit about that and exactly how those restrictions work or how y'all work together to work through those things, to Mitch's example?
Of course. I mean, of course we want to, we would love student athletes to always do business with our partners, sure, right? But there is no restriction. I think there's more than, the last number I saw, we've done more than 250, student athletes have done more than 250 deals outside of BBNIL. They've brought their own deals. So, our first pass at anything is to support those long-term partners. I just mentioned, with Kentucky Farm Bureau and Paul Miller and Central Bank. But that's not, if they don't feel like that's the right path for them and they want to go do their own thing, that's fine, right? We can work with them in that scenario. But our first pass is we believe that we can help them the most, both from generating revenue and marketing opportunities through our partners. We have nearly 200 partners with JMI Sports and UK Athletics that we can tap into. We're best positioned to help student athletes with what we call hot market opportunities, right? We're the ones closest to the fire, right, with being able to go to partners and say, because you have a limited time, right? I've always talked about baseball. We all love baseball backgrounds. You can hit a home run to send you to the College World Series, and you've got about, 4 days to maybe, before you go 0 for 4 in the first game of the College World Series. So, that's a short period of time to capture, your moment. And, the one example that we like to talk about was last year with Weetabix. And Amari Williams, had, if I remember correctly, we were able to reach out, get a deal done with Weetabix for Amari Williams, and then we lose the next game, right? He couldn't have done that on his own. because that's what we do every day. It's what we do for the university. We're a connection to the business community, to partners, and we are extremely fortunate. I mean, I am proud to say and have no hesitation, there is no one that has the amount in both number and value of long-term guaranteed partners, contracts with partners, than here at the University of Kentucky. And those are people that we can tap into quickly to take advantage of some of those opportunities.
So what I hear is the BBNIL is an accelerant. It's even more than NIL, right? It's a suite of services. And I think, Mitch, I want to go back just for a moment to Alston, because I think we build on what we have been successful in before, and your strategy and philosophy of even the Alston funds and how our student athletes were able to earn those dollars. And you wanted a suite of services. You talked about it earlier, of this suite of services. And so to me, this suite is a continuation of the strategies of the success of UK athletics for decades now. Any comment or more to add on that, Mitch?
I think a couple of things. One, the Alston Awards was something, they had to find their way. That wasn't something that they became available, and for a lot of schools, they just gave them the money. And we said to our young people, this is where you match rights with responsibilities. And so we said, you have the right to have that. There comes a responsibility with that, and that is performing academically and doing what you're supposed to do in the classroom and growing toward a degree. Progress toward a degree was really, really important. The other piece that was critical was the program that was put in place by the university and the financial literacy program that came alongside that through our Fidelity partnership. And speaking of long-term partnership, that came alongside and gave our young people a fee-free account for them to take those monies and invest those in an account and grow that. Fascinating to watch and to hear the stories about our young people that have jumped in on that and have really manifested a set of monies for them to leave college with that they might not have had ordinarily. That's number one. Number two, I go back to, as you begin to teach people how to use those opportunities, I will fast forward to our volleyball team, who, by the way, just today is Monday, so that would have been Saturday, went through a 3-game sweep of Creighton to get to the Final Four in Kansas City. Pretty cool. It was really amazing. 6,000 people there, completely sold out, rocking crowd. It was really, really cool. That team has created a fast market midseason opportunity with Clark's Pump and Shop. And they have done some ads, and they have been able to monetize their successes in the midseason and go through NIL Go, and they're one of our partners, and we work with them very closely, and that has been something that's cool. All the folks have recognized it, and they've had a blast doing it. They've made a little bit of money for themselves doing it. They've been able to invest that money doing it, and now they find themselves on their way to the Final Four, which is pretty cool. So you see these things in real time. I think what people want to do is isolate and pick on one situation, one conversation, one nuance, and go, oh my gosh, something's not working the way it should. I will tell you, it is really cool to watch our young people take advantage of some of these opportunities.
And that goes, those are great examples, and it goes both ways, right? It's when corporate partners see how student athletes can be used, it's going to continue to build.
It builds on
itself. Yeah, it's no different. I kind of go back to when I was here 10 years ago. There was, we had to make a shift in sports marketing. There were a lot of partners who've been here a long time who were partners because they just loved the University of Kentucky, right? And they maybe wanted tickets and they loved the Kentucky. We had to make a shift of how this is a marketing platform, a business platform, with the IP of the University of Kentucky. Now they're going to be able to see and see others do it. Okay, we can use now student athletes. Yeah. Oh, I see what they're doing. I see what Clark's is doing. Yeah, I'd like to do that next year. So we think this is only going to continue to build.
As we start to wrap up the Business of UK podcast today, I want to come back to Mitch. In an earlier discussion, we talked about the amazing Kentuckians that have been involved in this industry. We mentioned Mr. Host, who really started, I think you and I would agree, all of us would agree, he's the father of this field. And then we talked about Tom Stoltz, a good friend of yours who you have a long-time relationship with. And then Paul, of course, all being from literally, a few miles from each other in Kentucky. And so I'm going to come to Mitch here in a second, but before I do, Paul, talk a little bit. You're president of MLB International, right? You had a career outside of GE. You were at Major League Baseball for a long, long time. And are there things you learned there related to name, image, and likeness well before we get to the college space that makes your background helpful as we think about this?
It's an interesting question, and I'm not sure anyone's asked me that before. But yes, first of all, I had great mentors there: Paul Beast and Tim Brosnan, Rob Manfred, the current commissioner, learning the business from them. But with specific to NIL, one, I ran a business, the event business, and the World Baseball Classic, which was a partnership with the union. So I had, very close ties to the players' union and understood that side very well. But my first exposure to NIL was Hideo Nomo coming over here from Japan in the mid-'90s, and all of a sudden he's the first player from Japan. He becomes a Dodger, and they want to do all kinds of Hideo Nomo. He was getting all kinds of interest from corporations from Japan, but they couldn't use. They realized how important it was to have that IP, to have Dodgers across your chest, right? And that was, we were doing NIL deals. That was Mike's first start of doing NIL deals. For an individual athlete who needed to combine his own rights with the rights of the property, because they realized, hey, he's worth more as a major leaguer, as a Dodger wearing the uniform. And we see a lot. You can do it either way in college, right? Athletes, there are times they do it without the marks, but most of the time, that's where we talk about BBNIL. If we add the property, the IP of Kentucky across their chest, it's just so much more valuable and authentic and to the partner.
So we talked about acceleration. We've talked about the systems approach that Mitch takes, whether it was Alston or even when we're thinking about, I think the term, Mitch, that comes to my mind is, the president who talks about Capilouto, a life of meaning and purpose. I'm not sure there's a better evidence than what we've done and what you've done in the athletics department. We talked about Kentuckians being engaged in this and how this relationship provides options, right? It's not mandatory, right? There's other options. Of course we want to work with our partners, people who've been with us. Paul talked about some since the 70s. I mean, just think about that. But Mitch, let me come to you for any final thoughts or comments as we wrap up the Business of UK podcast here.
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. Clearly, there's a competitive component for our program that we want the opportunity to work and recruit, train, compete with the best student athletes in the country, and we've got a set of those that are of young people in our program we're super proud of and thankful that they're with us, and we're going to continue to pursue those individuals to come be a part of Kentucky. Number two, I think it's really, really important to note that we're in the infancy stages of all of this. We act like the NIL thing has been around for decades, and we're in this. It's literally been around, for 2 to 3 years max. As we've gone through this transition, and it was uniquely cloaked in collectives early on, and then it was sort of in the NIL world, and now we're fully into the house settlement, which differentiates the rev share and the NIL piece a little bit. So we're in the nuances of all of that in the cap management system of the rev share, anything like that. So those are all new pieces, and we're all going to continue to learn about that. Doesn't mean there's perfection in anything that we've done, but there does mean I think that we're growing it, and we're trying to be really thoughtful about it from every front. And so we want to make sure that we're thoughtful in a lot of different ways. And so I think that we've taken a really strong approach to help our student athletes benefit. And so that's number two. And number three, I think that if I was to say anything, I think if you look at the track record of our institution as a whole, not just athletics, not just the academic side of the university, and as a whole, this institution is fully committed to students and making sure that they start their experience as freshmen, and if they come in as a sophomore, junior, that's cool too. We grow them into young people. When they walk out of here, they fully are ready for what they're going to experience in the post-academic athletic life. And I think that's something we take great pride in. I've been here a long time, and it's wonderful to be able to see young people bring their children back and say, hey, my child's now coming to college at University of Kentucky. Now, that's two things. It means you're older, but it also means, man, clearly we've done some things okay. Because they're coming back and they're bringing their kids and they want them to be Wildcats. And so and the fourth thing, I said three final. This is the fourth one. The beauty of Kentucky, the thing that has been so beautiful since I've been here, is going back to the length of service and the things that people have done, not for me, but when I look at the people in our department, the coaches that we have, the tenure of the coaches that we have that are around us, and the people that are so long-standing at the university and have worked so hard for something that means so much, there's a reason they stay. It's a special place. Kentucky is a special state. We have a special Commonwealth. We have a special city in Lexington. All those things are special. So there's going to be places where, man, their friendships and the relationships are so deep, and they are intertwined. And that's a good thing. I don't make that a bad thing. It's a really good thing. I'm thankful people care that much that they come at it from so many different angles, and they want to pour into our program. For some reason, every once in a while, we want to make it out to be a bad thing. It's not. It is a really good thing. I go to other places. I see places all across the country. It is so fractured and so ill-meaning in different places. Not at our place. It's a bunch of people that genuinely family care about Kentucky, and that's what makes this such a uniquely cool place to work.
That's fantastic, Mitch. That's fantastic. A couple things as we wrap up today. So Mitch talked about another element of that strategic plan. One of the things about this series, Mitch, is one of our tenets, as you know, is ensuring greater trust, transparency, and accountability. The first part of our strategic plan, though, is how do we put our students first? And what you just evidenced is so well said of how we do that in this fabric of Kentucky, this quilt. And Paul, we were talking about that in another series, just talking about the meaning of tied to the Commonwealth and tied to what happens, whether it's Rupp or Kroger or Historic Memorial Coliseum and what you described with volleyball just the other night. So we want your feedback. So we're wrapping up another episode. As we think about future podcasts, we want to hear from you. Please email us at businessofuk@uky.edu. We look forward to connecting with you next time, where we're going to talk about the budget of the University of Kentucky, of the enterprise that Mitch just talked about. $8.7 billion. Now over 36,000 employees, over 38,000 students. We are physically located and have people who work in all 120 counties. So we'll talk about how we think about the budget, what it's comprised of, how it's used. We'll get that whiteboard out again, I think. And thank you for joining us, and I look forward to connecting again soon. As we sign off, we reiterate the North Star of the University of Kentucky, and that is how we advance Kentucky. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Blue. Behind the Blue is a production of the University of Kentucky. For more stories about how the University of Kentucky is advancing our Commonwealth, visit uknow.uky.edu.